Don't spill the Bordeaux. You can't afford to pay for it." The words slid out like a blade slashing through the velvet air of Aurelia, a Manhattan restaurant. At the VIP table, a man in a tailored suit, Gordon Hale, leaned back with a sneer, his gold watch casting a cold glint. In that world of crystal and caviar, the waitress was just a shadow skimming their line of sight, nameless, valueless. Her name was Mara Collins, but no one bothered to ask. A pressed black uniform without ostentation, hair tied neatly back, no jewelry, no makeup, a quiet kind of beauty that didn't demand attention. She moved through the glittering chandeliers like frozen rain tray, steady in hand, each step deliberate. The scent of truffle oil wound through the air, and the clink of glasses felt more like a performance of power than a dinner. The VIP table crackled with laughter. Beside Gordon sat his wife Vivian, glossy red lips and a thin blade-like smile. Across from them, Trent, a crypto guy with a tan that didn't fit New York winters, and his girlfriend Kara, highlights flashing like a neon sign for new money. They were the kind of guests who craved someone to step on for fun. Tonight, their main target was Mara. When she brought a fresh bottle, Gordon raised his glass as if appraising a diamond. "You missed a smear," he pointed at empty air. "Wherever you crawled out of probably couldn't teach you how to polish glass." Laughter burst out, Vivian the loudest. Mara set the bottle down with a soft click like a period. "I'll bring you a new glass," she said evenly. Eyes unruffled. She turned away just enough for Kara to whisper to her boyfriend deliberately loud for Mara to hear. "She's got zero class. Probably only comes here to scrub floors." Manager Miles Porter, always slick with sweat from buttering up big spenders, cut across, catching Mara's elbow as she passed the kitchen door. "Stay away from Ethan Blackwell's table," he snapped under his breath, jerking his chin toward the corner where a young man composed in a simple yet expensive suit scrolled his phone. Mara only nodded. Understood. No arguing. No excuses. She slipped back into rhythm. At the bar, Raphael, the bartender, noticed Mara's hand hesitate for half a second. While she filled a pitcher, the edge of an old photo flashed from her apron pocket, a girl in fatigues beside teammates in a dusty yard. "Family?" Raphael asked. Mara tucked the photo away, her face as flat as a dawn-still lake. "Something like that," she said, and gently set the pitcher on the tray. At Aurelia, they performed laughter. Mara, she just worked. But tonight, the air thickened as if the whole room were holding its breath for something. The space in Aurelia seemed to tighten by the minute. A soft jazz ensemble wove an audio backdrop, but the VIP table's laughter drowned everything out. Gordon Hale reclined his Rolex, gleaming as if it were proof of power itself. Beside him, Vivian, in a tight red dress, glossy lips flicked looks that sliced away other people's worth. Across the table, Trent wouldn't stop bragging about seven-figure trades like he was staging his ego, while Kara tapped her nails against her glass eyes, judging each step a server took. They were the kind of guests any staff dreaded, loud, self-satisfied, always hunting for an excuse to degrade someone to prove themselves. And tonight their eyes pinned Mara Collins. The young woman approached with a fresh tray of wine. Gordon lifted his crystal as if inspecting a diamond. "You missed a stain," he pointed to a smudge that didn't exist. "Wherever dump you came from, they didn't teach you to clean glasses." Laughter ricocheted. Vivian laughed the loudest, tilting her head back like an actress on stage. Mara paused, a half-beat fingers grazing the bottle's neck, then set it down. The sound of glass touching tabletop was just a soft click, but it landed like a full stop. "I'll replace your glass," she said calmly, gaze straight unwavering. She turned. But Kara leaned over, voice just loud enough for Mara to hear. "She's got no class." Probably only ever came here to mop floors. Trent barked a laugh sharp as cracked crystal. Mara didn't hunch her shoulders, didn't stiffen, didn't react, only the barest squeeze at the tray's edge, knuckles blanching for a flicker. Then it was gone, and everything returned to quiet. In the corner, Ethan Blackwell, a 35-year-old billionaire, sat still. He didn't join the laughter, didn't lift a glass. Light from his phone washed over a sharp face, but his eyes occasionally flicked toward Mara, quick and discreet like question marks left unanswered. No one in Aurelia realized the contempt they tossed around as entertainment was sowing the seeds of a moment that would shake the room just minutes later. Mara Collins returned to the bar tray, empty and neat in hand. Laughter from the VIP table still reverberated like an off-key song smothering the velvet saxophone in the corner. In Aurelia, eyes skimmed past her as if she were only a dim silhouette against crystal light. To Mara, that wasn't new. She set the tray down and grabbed a water pitcher for the next table. As she leaned, a small photo slipped into view from her apron pocket, an old faded shot of a group of soldiers in a dusty yard far from here. In the center stood a much younger Mara in fatigue's gaze steady as if familiar with the price of survival. Raphael, the bartender, caught it. He paused mid-polish and gently asked family Mara close the photo and slid it back in. Her face didn't change. Her voice was steady like a regulated heartbeat. Something like that. She moved before Raphael could ask more. He didn't push, just exhaled and watched her with quiet concern. Not everyone looked away that night. Jenna, the sycophantic hostess, intercepted Mara as she returned with the pitcher. Twirling a lock of blonde hair, her shrill voice rang just loud enough for nearby tables. "Mara, you should smile more." No one wants a gloomy server ruining their $500 dinner. A few guests snickered. Heels clicked approval on marble. Mara set the pitcher down slow and precise, as if weighing every motion. "I'm here to work, not perform," she said, voice low, but forged like tempered steel. Jenna's smile turned cruel. "Maybe that's why you always look like you just stepped out of a shelter." A young couple caught it and chuckled, their stares slicing into Mara like clean knife edges. For a heartbeat, Mara's finger joints tightened against the tray, a thin vein rising blue. Then she released, turned, and walked away. Silence, but not the silence of weakness. A chosen silence. Aurelia stayed noisy, pretending smiles and clinks could plaster over every crack. But the cold stillness in Mara's eyes signaled something larger on the horizon, like a lake gone flat before a storm. Aurelia still buzzed like a stage. Feigned laughter, resounding glassware heels ticking a rhythm on marble. But something was off. Mara Collins felt the air heavier than usual, as if the room itself held its breath. She slipped past the VIP table tray, balanced. Gordon Hale boomed about the stock market like he held the world in his palms. Vivian smoothed fresh gloss, flicking contemptuous glances at Mara. Trent flaunted crypto deals while Kara swirled her wine with a half smile. Every word and look aimed to cut Mara down, but she kept walking, spine-straight eyes on the task. In the corner, Ethan Blackwell. The man in a simple, powerful suit stayed silent. He didn't join the chorus. His eyes occasionally left his phone to glance at Mara. In that split second, she dipped a slight nod and acknowledgement between strangers and moved on. Then a door crashed, tearing the room's fabric. 3 figures in ski masks surged in boots, hammering the stone like mallets. Everybody down a smoke-rough voice ripped across the space. Guests screamed. Bordeaux spilled evening gowns smeared into red streaks like blood. Chairs flipped. The collision sounds swelled into a brutal orchestra. Gordon yanked Vivian to the floor. His Rolex snagged a tablecloth, ripping it clean. Trent was already kneeling, hands raised, stammering, "Take everything, just don't shoot." Kara hugged her purse like life itself. Ethan Blackwell froze, fingers trembling, as he stripped off ring and watch, ready to surrender. And amid the chaos, Mara stood still, empty tray in hand. No scream, no tremor. Her gaze ticked across 1, 2, 3. She counted, breathed slow, her body motionless as sculpture, but inside a familiar instinct rose. Under tables, whispers hissed, "She's crazy. Why isn't she down?" But Mara only tilted the tray slightly, eyes sharpening as if the battlefield had never left her. The robbers' shouts ricocheted around the room, pounding each word into everyone's heart. Down now. Breath-ragged fabric, rustled glass shattered across the floor. Aurelia, once a stage for opulence, became a makeshift bunker. One robber, broad-shouldered with a scar slashed across his brow, leveled a gun at Mara's chest. "You deaf, Neil," he rasped. A voice smoked thin by years of cigarettes. Nearby, a middle-aged woman in a velvet blazer hissed with venom. "She'll get us all killed." Her nails bit her husband's arm, eyes flashing fear and spite. Mara didn't move. Fingers brushed the tray's rim joints, paling, but her eyes stayed calm. No pleading, no panicked flinch. To the guests, that silence looked like arrogance. "Don't be stupid," Gordon Hale hissed from under a table, his voice trembling but still smug. Vivian screamed, mascara streaking. "You'll get us all killed." Trent pressed his face to the floor, muttering curses. "Don't drag us down with you, lunatic." Kara, eyes watery, whispered, "She's nobody. Why stand like she matters?" The whispers swirled around Mara, casting her as the nucleus of fear and contempt. People didn't want her strong. They wanted her to break, so she'd fit the lowly mold they'd built. Mara inhaled, long and slow eyes locked on a barrel inches from her forehead. In that instant, the past flooded back, a dusty street, children shouting for candy, a sergeant's bark snapping her to formation. Their calm decided life or death. She wouldn't bend under hateful eyes, wouldn't fold under false commands. The crowd labeled her a burden, but Mara knew this wasn't recklessness. It was a choice. Silence, stand tall, wait for the beat. And then the beat came. Mara rotated her hips and stepped a half step out of the line of fire. Time crystallized. The scarred robber snarled, "Kneel, you deaf!" The gun hovered inches from Mara's head, the stock trembling at her uncanny stillness. Around them, sobs, groans, the growling outrage of the wealthy, an orchestra of panic. Everyone was sure the waitress would drop any second. Instead, Mara exhaled one long breath. Amber-brown eyes flashed like a blade in the dark. She slipped sideways out of the line of fire in a blink. Her right hand snared his wrist and wrenched. A heavy crack. The gun clanged across the floor. Before he could cry out, Mara's elbow slashed into his jaw, clean as a cut. He buckled, collapsed like a sack out cold. And the tray in her left hand, not a tremor. She set it on the nearest table with an eerie calm, as if shelving a plate. The room took a single collective breath. Pale faces peeked from beneath tablecloths. "What? What just happened?" Whispers crashed like small waves. The remaining two froze guns still raised, their confidence cracked open. Mara turned to face them, posture light yet coiled. Shoulders loose, feet planted, gaze locked. Not the stance of a waitress. The stance of a fighter versed in gunfire and blood. From under a table, young waiter Tony, always kind to Mara, crawled out face drained. "Mara, stop. You'll make it worse," he pleaded, voice shaking. "You're not a cop." His words lit a fuse. Guests nodded, hissing. She's lost it. She'll get us killed. To them, Mara's focus wasn't courage, it was hubris. But Mara didn't care. Her heart was steady, breath controlled. The battlefield wasn't new, it had only returned. And she knew the next 15 seconds would decide everything. The second robber, tall, gaunt hands visibly shaking, snapped out of shock. "Think you're a hero!" he screamed, gun wobbling. That wasn't a grip forged under pressure. It was panic. He charged, footsteps pounding, breathing harsh enough to drown the lingering jazz. The guests didn't cheer. They cursed. Vivian crouched behind a chair, voice cracked. "She'll get us all killed." Kara, mascara smeared, sobbed. "She's just a maid." "Why act like some action star?" Gordon, mouth twisted by fear, still managed. "Stop now. Let the police handle it, you idiot." Mara said nothing. As the lanky man lunged, gun still in hand, she dipped low, sliding past a wild swing. Hips turned. A kick fired clean from her core drilled into his gut. Air barked out of him like a punctured bag, and his scarecrow frame crashed through a glass table. The shatter boomed. Shards flared under the chandelier, jolting the entire room. A woman in a gold dress lurched up, hands trembling but voice dripping disdain. "Who does she think she is?" "An action star." Beside her, her heavy-set husband nodded. "A waitress isn't allowed to play hero." Mara placed a hand on the edge of a nearby table, fingertips grazing, drawing a short breath. She didn't look at them. Didn't answer. To her, those shouts were pebbles on an old battlefield, noisy, meaningless. A flash of memory, a dusty Middle Eastern street, children running, chanting for candy. She smiled, tossed a few before a sergeant's bark yanked her back to formation. That was a battlefield half a second of drift could kill you. Mara carried that instinct into this exact moment. 2 robbers down. The room still sodden with fear, but the contempt thickened by the minute. To them, Mara wasn't a savior, just an outsider daring to break the role assigned to her. The final robber didn't panic like the others. Shorter, muscular eyes dulled beneath the ski mask. In his hand, not a gun, but a gleaming dagger steel catching chandelier light like lightning. He advanced slowly each step, packing death into the coming thrust. "You're dead," he growled, voice low and rough. He dipped, then lunged the blade, streaking for Mara's ribs. The restaurant held its breath. Whimpers turned to verdicts. A silver-bearded man in a rumpled suit still crouched under a table, pointed with a shaking hand. "She's dangerous. See? She's not normal." His wife's wrist clamped around a diamond bracelet bobbed her head. "Maybe she's with them. No normal person fights like that." The accusations cut like a second knife into the silence. But Mara didn't care. Her body moved as if pre-written in muscle memory. "One step right." Her hand clamped, the knife wrist torque snapped. The blade flipped, landing in her palm on a perfect arc. Momentum carried the man down his body, slamming the floor. His skull thunked heavy and final. The room fell into a dense hush. 3 men within 15 seconds lay unconscious or groaning at the feet of a waitress they'd mocked. Mara stood knife in hand, breath only slightly raised. Her eyes flashed a chill that made anyone nearby step back. She crouched and set the knife on a table, slow and deliberate, letting everyone see she wasn't a threat. Her gaze flicked to the silver-bearded man. He recoiled, bravado dissolving in an instant. This should have been applause, thanks, relief. Instead, whispers, suspicion, a coldness like shackles. To that wealthy crowd, Mara was still just a waitress who overstepped, not the savior who had kept them alive. Police sirens wailed from the street, and Aurelia's door swung open. Heavy boots struck marble. Radios crackled, slicing the air. The 3 robbers were cuffed and dragged out groaning, yet no guest exhaled with relief. Instead, venomous whispers spread faster than Bordeaux soaking the carpet. "How does a normal person fight like that?" a man in pinstripes muttered, eyes glued to Mara. "She's probably a criminal." His wife nodded, voice quivering. "She's dangerous. She's not one of us." Mara didn't answer. She bent to gather broken glasses, hands steady as if resetting for the next seating. To them, that silence read like a confession. Miles Porter, the manager, face flushed with panic, marched over. He jabbed a finger, voice shrilling, "What the hell was that, Mara? What are you hiding? Who do you think you are? Some superhero?" Behind him, Vivian adjusted her hair in a compact mirror and piled on. "I knew it. Trouble the second I saw her." The air bent, all eyes pinning her, accusing, disdainful. Then a gravelly voice seasoned with command cut through. A cop with a scar along his cheek stopped, stared at Mara, and his eyes blew wide. "Holy Sergeant Mara Collins, I thought you'd retired." The room froze. Heads snapped around. Mara gave a slight nod, her voice low but clear. "I just wanted a normal life." The officer huffed a disbelieving laugh. "Navy Special Operations Counterterrorism. You trained with my unit. In Kabul, you saved my life." Faces that had mocked her seized up. Gordon clenched his jaw, lips trembling. Vivian swallowed, red lipstick smearing. Trent stared at the floor. Kara gripped her purse strap, words gone. The truth lay stark as light on marble. The woman they'd dismissed wasn't trouble. She was a soldier who had carried teammates' lives on her shoulders. And tonight, she had saved them, though they hardly deserved it. Aurelia felt leaden. After the officer said Sergeant Mara Collins, the room sank into an uneasy hush. Those who had mocked her avoided each other's gaze, but their arrogance didn't fully evaporate. Gordon Hale tugged his tie, voice lowered, still posturing. "Whatever. She's still just a server." Vivienne gritted her teeth, smearing away lipstick. "A bit of luck, that's all. Changes nothing." Mara heard it all. She kept collecting glass, stacking it neatly on a tray, every motion calm as if nothing had happened. That composure only needled them more. Miles Porter, the manager, stomped closer, face blotched red with sweat. He snapped, voice shrill. "Do you know what you just did? Think you're a superhero. If anyone got hurt, we'd be sued. You're fired, Mara. Grab your things and get out." The room buzzed. A few guests curled their lips, Gordon among them, as if finally confirmed that Mara's place had collapsed. Mara set the tray down and turned to face Porter. Her eyes were cold still, her voice low. "Are you sure?" 4 words that snagged in his throat. A chair scraped from the corner. Ethan Blackwell, silent all evening, stood. His simple suit needed no flourish. Each step parted the crowd. He stopped before Mara, gaze direct, and decided. "I don't see a server," Ethan said, voice deep yet carrying. "I see the only person who kept her nerve tonight. The one who saved us." He extended a hand, each word carving the quiet. "From this moment, you're head of security for my company." The room burst into murmurs. Gordon locked up, jaw grinding. Vivian's eyes went wide. Her glass slipped wine blooming red on her dress. Trent dropped his gaze. Kara clutched her chair. The ones who had sneered were overturned right before their eyes. Mara looked at the offered hand, then at Ethan. She took it firm, eyes steady. No more words were needed. Everyone knew the balance had shifted. In a single night, Aurelia stopped being a luxury restaurant. It became ground zero for a media storm. Security footage leaked showing Mara Collins felling 3 armed men in 15 seconds. In slow motion, each razor-clean movement stood out against chaos while distinguished patrons crawled under tables, faces contorted in fear. Headlines everywhere. Billionaire Ethan Blackwell appoints Waitress as head of security after robbery. Millions of shares, thousands of comments. People called Mara a quiet heroine. Some wrote, her trade didn't even shake with a gun to her head. Now that's steel nerves. Others doubted who takes down 3 armed men. Maybe she's spec ops. Meanwhile, those who'd sneered at Mara faced public consequences. A photo of Gordon Hale mid-sneer captioned, "This is the man who mocked the woman who saved his life," spread like wildfire. Within days, his fund saw clients pull out in droves. Vivian lost the biggest sponsor for her upcoming gala after a clip of her calling Mara cheap spread on Twitter. Those who once applauded her went silent messages unanswered. Trent was called out by a tech blogger with over 1 million followers. Crypto Bro mocks the Spec Ops vet who saved him. Investors still want to park cash with this guy. His funding round cratered in days. Kara quietly locked her Instagram after the internet dug up stories flexing luxury alongside nasty comments about Mara. Mara was different. No statements, no interviews, no basking. In her new office high above at Blackwell HQ, her desk held only a small frame, the old military photo. She arrived on time, sat through meetings quietly, eyes scanning like radar. Executives who'd once chuckled at Aurelia now stood forcing smiles, pulling out chairs for her. The stillness in Mara's gaze could hush a room. Her silence was no longer weakness, it was strength. In the days that followed, Mara Collins's name saturated the news. Papers called her the waitress who took down 3 robbers, while social media hailed Manhattan's secret Spec Ops heroine. To Mara, it was all a passing wind. She kept going to work at Blackwell HQ, a simple suit replacing the restaurant uniform, eyes the same as ever, calm, perceptive, unshowy. In meetings, a nod or glance from Mara could quiet the room. Executives who had once laughed at Gordon Hale's jabs now sat meekly, polite smiles fixed, fearing her silence more than any speech. Mara's silence had become power. But she wasn't chasing victory. On her desk sat a single old frame young Mara in fatigues amid teammates on a dusty field. In her coat pocket, a small slip reading "Thank you" scribbled by a female aide who'd been at Aurelia that night. Those small things weighed more than 1,000 accolades. One evening after work, Mara stepped out of the high-rise. On the corner, a street vendor held up a cheap bracelet, smiling kindly. "For you, miss." Mara paused. Memory washed over children laughing in a dusty market, a sergeant's call pulling her back to the line. She took the bracelet, pressed double the cash into his hand. "Keep it," she said softly, then walked on bracelet, settling beside the photo and note in her pocket. Mara didn't need a spotlight, didn't need an audience. She needed to know one thing: when the world tries to make you small, standing straight and silent can be the strongest answer. And to anyone watching this video who's been belittled, told you're nothing, this is your story. You're not wrong to stand firm. You're not alone. You're still here, stronger than they ever imagined. If you've ever been underestimated, leave a comment below. Hit follow so we can continue walking together through stories of pain, betrayal, and rebirth.